With the latest jobs report, jobless claims, there's about another 1.54 million Americans who filed for unemployment benefits. Quote a little bit from Yahoo Finance. On the heels of the blowout May jobs report, market participants got another update on how the U.S. labor market is faring amid the ongoing COVID-19 crisis with the weekly jobs claim report on Thursday. An additional 542 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits in the week ending June 6th, below economists' expectations of 155 million jobless claims. Weekly initial job claims have decelerated for 10 consecutive weeks. The prior week's figures were revised to a higher 1.879 million from the previously reported 1.88 million over the past 3 months. More than 44 million Americans have filed for unemployment insurance. So we're seeing the reopenings happening. We're seeing, obviously, Corona accelerating and spiking again, and moving up again in different parts of the country, like Texas, which, crazily prematurely opened. The HEROES Act is going to, get taken up. The already piddling bill that the House Democrats have put forward does do some good things, but not nearly enough in terms of things having to do with rent and housing security and, the paycheck protection, which Pramila Jayapal put forward. That might be the most important aspect of it that Pelosi took out. And then, of course, Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, will have their way with it. So I don't think, it's weird because Josh Barro in New York Magazine actually is sort of coming forward as an example, and other people are sort of almost, kind of saying, hey, look, it seems like the worst of it is over because the declines are slowing. But the truth of the matter is that, 44 million Americans unemployed. And, the head of the Fed came out and, is predicting nowhere near a return to anything like we had pre-COVID until I think, 2022. So they'll keep interest rates down and, we'll see. But certainly on a political level, I don't think this slowdown is going to help Trump. And also, whatever small, tiny gains were finally starting to show up before COVID in terms of actual earnings going up, this is washed away. And then the next wave is, God knows what Amazon, as an example, is doing to our brick and mortar economy, as, a lot of these retail places, as an example, just aren't coming back. So this is bad, folks.
I'm glad you brought up Amazon, actually, because unemployment alone is not necessarily a very good index of how regular Americans are doing economically, right? And if unemployment does start to go down, it's probably going to be because people with no other choice were forced into crappy jobs like Amazon. Amazon has been doing a major hiring spree right now as if to consolidate their control further over the selling things business, but also to show the workers who are trying to organize that they are expendable, that there's an infinite supply of scab labor coming in. So just because if unemployment might start to go down, you're probably going to see it. But what is actually happening is people who have no other options because no help is coming from the Democrats or the Republicans, getting jobs in essential work, essential labor that is underpaid, and they have to work multiple gigs to survive.
Absolutely. And now we have just a little bit of, I want to just note this as well from new piece, David Day in the American Prospect, because now we're going into the CARES Act was signed into law 76 days ago. So, we was talking about the macro indicators, the basic emergency provisions to people. $1,200 checks are starting to run out. Obviously, the beefed up unemployment insurance, which was, obviously a good thing that Bernie Sanders got in, was already under attack by, as an example, Southern Republican governors and Mike DeWine in Ohio that didn't want to pay unemployment insurance. So there was that, dangerous rush to reopen. When, of course, we see the consequences of that in terms of spike cases in places like Texas. But let's also look back at, the oversight provision of it, because, of course, the vast majority of the CARES Act was just essentially trillions of dollars of completely unaccountable money getting washed into the most powerful corporations and wealthy individuals on earth. And, we've gone through this just despicable story so many times of, like Nancy Pelosi Democrats, slow walking things, not fighting for, as an example, automatic stabilizers like food stamp expansion, which absolutely should have been in all of these bills, which of course the Trump administration is still trying to cut, and slicing and nibbling around all of these direct benefits to people because God forbid somebody that makes 70 grand a year gets a little bit more help in this economic context, when the vast majority of what has actually been pumped into the economy, of course, are literally directly benefiting the most wealthy people on earth and not translating to companies, refraining from laying people off or anything like that. And, again, we essentially have basically amounts to about $4 trillion slush fund that Steve Mnuchin has discretion over. And I'll just quote now, much of the oversight, this is from David Dane, particularly of the bailout aspects of the CARE Act, is probably going to come from the Congressional Oversight Commission, which specifically was charged with monitoring the Federal Reserve's $4.5 trillion money cannon. There's supposed to be 5 members on the commission, one chosen by each leader in the House and Senate, and a 5th, the chair, chosen by mutual agreement between Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. Again, it's been 76 days, and there's still no chair of the Congressional Oversight Commission. And this is an hour ago from Public Citizen. Steve Mnuchin is now outright refusing to disclose businesses receiving what is this, 4.5 million? How much? I don't even know. What is that? What's that number, Brendan?
500 trillion.
Excuse me.
Or 500 billion, excuse me.
500 billion. Okay, yeah. He's refusing to disclose businesses that are receiving 500 billion in bailout funds, claiming the info is confidential. 4.5 million businesses receive government funds, zero transparency. And again, it's just this is pure corruption. And if you want to get, theorize about it, and I don't like, this should be a really term that everybody needs to learn. I mean, we are in the era of just unmitigated platform monopoly capitalism. And part of it that's so disturbing is because basically the Fed is one of the only aspects left of the federal government that even works, that is designed to just funnel money into Wall Street, to funnel money into the big monopoly firms in this country, that even the Small Business Administration was not equipped to getting emergency bailout funds to smaller parts of the economy. This is from Politico. Mnuchin says it's proprietary and confidential information. The Small Business Administration is also withholding PPP loan data the agency requested as part of its oversight efforts.
Yeah, that means we are going to do this undemocratically and unaccountably.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and that would happen. And this is always so important to monitor. Not that it wouldn't have been anyways, of course, right? I mean, we saw this. Of course, we all know. We go back to the bailouts of the recession in 2008. Were they democratically accountable? No. Did they bail out Wall Street in a completely unaccountable way after Wall Street melted the economy and destroyed trillions of wealth? Yes, absolutely. But they still actually felt more of a necessity to go through some motions. There's no motions here.
Well, I'm not an accelerationist, but we are certainly in the accelerationist timeline, right? And one thing that may come of this is small businesses, a lot of them aren't going to make it. And there will be a further consolidation of control over the economy by giants like Amazon. And it's possible, I mean, nothing's a given. We have to organize. But when everybody works for the same one or two evil corporations, it might be easier in some ways to do class struggle, to gin up hate against the bosses than when your boss is like someone you kind of know and kind of like, you know, just trying to see the silver linings here.
Yeah.
The bad news is they have billions and billions of dollars to try to counteract whatever positive
trillions.
That
I mean, you could look at. I mean, honestly, you could look at these bailouts as essentially in some ways, they function
war fund.
They're just an unlimited strike break fund. I mean, if that was to even happen. But also, look, I mean, I think it's a balance because I definitely have heard this argument that Jamie's making, and there's some there is some element of like you get to a level of monopoly where you completely clarify the relationship between capital and labor. Okay. Well, and obviously, and look, and you do see there's some incredible organizing coming out of Amazon. On the other hand, especially for where we are right now in terms of our political economy and people's basic well-being, it's a disaster that what few small areas of monopolized capital are getting wiped out. Because, you know, a lot of like actual small businesses, you know, function much more in the commons economy and actually have something to do with like the real economy of their context. And that, you know, is just true. And it's something that, particularly in this political environment, we really need to protect. So.
Yeah, I mean, my good friend's store is probably not going to make it through this. And part of the reason is there are grants for traditional businesses. There are no grants for co-ops. There are no grants for worker-owned co-ops. There are only loans that she's not going to be able to pay back later. So I guess I feel like I bring her up a lot. Ainsley Earhart's got the chicken salad chick friend. I've got the friend who owns an intersectional feminist witch store. But unfortunately, that's not who's getting
salad.
not the last time I checked. Maybe
they
some
don't do
like
chicken salad.
Some kind of enchanted chicken. But
enchanted vegan chicken.
Maybe.
That actually could be a good name for a reopen. Enchanted vegan salad.
I'll let her know if she even stays in this town after
that.
But
I mean, that's a serious. No, I mean
it's sad. It's messed
horrible.
Up.
It's horrible, and it's affecting. You know, and again, there is something. Gar Alpovitz wrote a really good book a couple of years ago tracking basically the commons economy that does exist in this country in different fragments and exists globally. And it's not to like valorize these things. They have their problems like anything else, like anything would have. But the truth of the matter is that small businesses, worker co-ops, and other enterprises like this are some of the only areas left of some like actual power and democratic openings in the economy. And, you know, at the end of the day, like we're going to need all of the above. I mean, nothing happens, in my view, strategically without an incredibly powerful labor movement. How that happens, we don't know, but that is essential. There also is going to need to be these alternatives, real alternatives in the economy, like Cooperation Jackson, Madragon, and things like that. And this is hurting that, like, tremendously. So that's something we need to be very, very attentive to.